Hello and good evening. I'm Gautam Roy and this is India First, a show where we talk in depth at matters related to the country's strategic concerns and interests and its steadily growing stature in the world. Well, they say that, God forbid, if there were to be a third world war, it would be fought over water. But the 1960 Indus Water Treaty between India and Pakistan has stood the test of 3 wars between the neighbours. Never has the flow of water of the 3 western rivers, Indus, Chenab and Jhelum, been stopped, reduced or in any way subverted by upstream India for downstream Pakistan. In all these years, India didn't even use the water that it's entitled to under the treaty. It was last year in September, following the Uri terror attack, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviewed the treaty, saying blood and water can't flow together. He decided that India will fully use the water as entitled under the treaty. There are over half a dozen hydroelectric projects that are being built or planned by India on the waters that flow into Pakistan. Pakistan has objected to these projects. What it has done is that it has sought the World Bank's intervention in the matter, which had brokered the original treaty. The World Bank urged mediation between India and Pakistan in November last year, after India too made its submission for a neutral expert. December saw the International Funding Agency put the processes initiated by India and Pakistan on hold to allow the 2 countries to consider alternative ways of resolving matters. And that brings us to the 2-day 113th meeting of the Indus Water Commission, day 1 of which has happened today without any fixed agenda in Islamabad. And to talk about it, we have G. Parthasarthy with us, former Indian High Commissioner to Pakistan. And we also have Ghanshyam, former Chairman, Central Water Commission, with us. Thank you for joining us. First to you, Mr. Parthasarthy. Through the course of how things have been as far as these waters are concerned, there's been amicable progress as well, and there's been some acrimony too. What is the way forward here? Because clearly we've come to a position where things are taking a bit of a decisive turn.
Things are taking a more complicated but not necessarily decisive turn.
Okay.
Because what has happened is Pakistan has grossly overused and misused the water. And it has been able to manage what it does primarily because we are not fully utilizing the waters which are due to us. What they get is the water rivers of Indus, Chenab and Jhelum. Though even for that, we are permitted to use it for non-consumptive use, and even for a certain number, like hydroelectric powers which are run on the river, and also for a certain amount for irrigation. This is all specified in the treaty. So both sides,
in terms of proportion, it's very little.
In terms of, naturally, because traditionally, I mean, if you look at it, the rationale which went in at that time, the waters of Indus, Jhelum and Chenab were largely utilized in Western Punjab and Sindh, whereas
which
these waters now, and that was the fertile area. But now I think what has happened is, in a number of cases, this was negotiated with the World Bank. The Indus Water Commission, which comprises a senior representative, chairman CWPC from both sides, where they have not been able to reach agreement. The treaty provides for the appointment of a neutral expert.
Okay.
Now, normally
that's what India has asked for.
No. That is the procedure. There is no other process. Anything else would be a violation.
Wants to go
that would be a violation. What has happened, and therefore you went for a neutral expert, and you went along. Sometimes you went for arbitration, but that was by mutual consent and with the shepherding of the World Bank. Now, in this case, what has happened is that the World Bank itself went wrong. Okay. They should have gone step by step, which was neutral expert, and then arbitration with one representative from each side and one representative by them.
Which is why the World Bank has now taken time out and said that
they have taken time out, but they are in a bind, not we. We are strictly abiding by the treaty. We are going by its provisions for a neutral expert, and let us see what emerges in this meeting, because if I remember correct, and he would know better than me, sir, that it is really a question. I think by June you have to, the commissioners have to file their report, isn't it, by 1st of June? So and therefore this meeting should have taken place in September. It's being held now, March.
Okay.
And by March 31st they had to be held.
Yeah. So in terms of how the situation is coming to a bit of an inflection point as to India deciding that it will use its share of water, clearly it's not just because of Pakistan, the way it has been misusing terrorism as its own tool against India. There are deeper and there is a need really for the water to be used by India. Could you explain to us what exactly is the need at this juncture that we want to use the water for electricity for other purposes?
Yeah, actually under treaty, as you are aware, that eastern river waters are totally given to India without any restriction on the use of its water. Western rivers, there are elements like we can have 18,600 megawatt of power generation, 3.6 million acre feet of storage, and
storage for?
Storage of water.
For which purpose?
It can be for different purpose. It can be for irrigation. Mainly it is for irrigation and the domestic use also.
And then?
And 13.43 lakh acre of irrigation, out of which we have been able to use 8 lakh acres of irrigation. We have not been able to create storage so far, and out of 18,600 megawatt which can be generated, we have been able to generate so far only about 3,000 megawatt of power. 2,500 megawatt of power is under construction.
Okay.
And about 6,000 megawatt of power is under advanced stage of approval and other things. So they are also in the line.
Okay.
So that is the status of utilization. Of course, as you see, we have not been able to generate the power which could have been generated. We have also not been able to create a storage which we could have. So number of steps have been taken by the technical departments to expeditiously look into those things and try to ensure at least that we are able to utilize water which
and when did this change started to happen in terms of the sense of urgency that has now come in to make use of what we're entitled to use?
Yeah, recently when I was chairman, then I looked into this very seriously.
But could you put a year and month to it?
Ministry also was very serious about this. Secretary himself took number of meetings. I was participating along with all my technical team, and then we are working on it as to how best we can utilize at least the mandated provision which we have under the treaty.
Let's also try and understand for you, Mr. Parthasarthy, why for decades altogether we didn't make use of this water. Pakistan got used to using the amount of water that it's been using. It's, you said, misusing the water because it's got more than its share.
It's just very bad water management and wasteful use. I mean, the treaty provided, and for certain use for them, they're getting everything they are entitled under the treaty. But yet they are going to face water shortages. And further down river, they have done certain diversions which have led to salted water getting into from Sindh into Gujarat, which have hurt us, and it's an issue which concerns us. But more importantly is the upstream utilization. The upstream utilization there is bad. Their real problem is going to be Sindh and Balochistan and even the frontier province screaming their heads off at the utilization by Punjab. I mean, like we have Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, theirs is a more serious problem because Punjab is the biggest province and the smaller provinces feel they are not getting their share. So it is also an internal political problem for them.
Okay. And in that mix then, of course, is India's own needs, and where our needs are concerned, how badly do we need this water?
Yeah, actually water has different role to play. for the development processes we undertake, like power development. Hydropower is not everywhere available. There are sites where we can construct dams. Similarly, the irrigable area, cultivable area cannot be available everywhere. There are hills, there are mountains, there are wasteland and other things which we cannot develop. So whatever mandated provision is there, at least that should be tried to be developed at the earliest. That is the need of the hour.
Because we need the energy, the clean energy. We need our farmers need the water.
Water for cultural purposes.
Okay, we'll try and further understand how things can move forward now that we're at the juncture of at least the commissioners on two sides meeting in Islamabad. We're taking a short break at this point in India First. Do stay tuned.
क्या बात है राशिद, फर्स्ट डिवीजन में पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन करने के बाद भी तुम उदास हो?
लेकिन सर वो
सोच रहे होगे कि खर्चा कहाँ से आएगा? हाँ, चिंता मत करो, क्योंकि अब तुम्हारे साथ है मौलाना आजाद नेशनल फेलोशिप हमारे लिए सर? हाँ, तुम्हारे लिए और अल्पसंख्यक समुदाय के उन स्टूडेंट्स के लिए जिनकी सालाना पारिवारिक आय 2.5 लाख रुपए से कम है और जिन्होंने किसी भी सरकारी विश्वविद्यालय से जूनियर रिसर्च फेलोशिप या एमफिल के लिए आवेदन दिया।
मदद हमारी, मंजिल आपकी।
मैं ये नहीं पूछूंगा कि आप शौच के लिए कहाँ गए। मैं ये भी नहीं पूछूंगा कि अगर आप खुले में शौच के लिए गए तो क्या आपने अपने बच्चे की जान को खतरे में डाला? क्या आपके गांव की बच्चियों को खुले में शौच करते हुए किसी ने बुरी नजर से देखा? आप खुद समझदार हैं, सक्षम हैं। आप ये तो जानते ही होंगे कि हमारे देश में 70,000 से ज्यादा गांवों के लोगों ने खुले में शौच की प्रथा को खत्म कर दिया है। गांव के बच्चे, महिला, पुरुष सब इस लक्ष्य में जुटे। निगरानी समितियां बनी जिन्होंने खुले में शौच कर रहे लोगों को समझाया, शौचालय बनाया, उनका इस्तेमाल करना सिखाया। क्या आपका गांव भी बनेगा खुले में शौच से मुक्त? आइए स्वच्छ भारत अभियान से जुड़िए। अब नहीं तो कब?
घर की सुरक्षा का तो पूरा ख्याल है आपको, पर आपकी दृष्टि की चोरी हो रही है, उसका क्या?
दृष्टि की चोरी मतलब?
ग्लूकोमा यानी काला मोतिया से धीरे धीरे दृष्टि की चोरी होती रहती है। इसके मुख्य लक्षण हैं सर दर्द, आँख में दर्द, रोशनी के बल्ब की चारों ओर रंगीन गोले दिखना एवं चश्मे का नंबर जल्दी जल्दी बदल जाना।
यदि आपकी उम्र 40 से अधिक है तो अब काला मोतिया से सतर्क रहें। याद रखें, नियमित जांच और उपचार से ग्लूकोमा द्वारा होने वाली दृष्टि विहीनता को रोका जा सकता है।
लक्षण दिखने पर जांच जरूरी, तभी रुकेगी दृष्टि की चोरी।
पूरी जांच व मुफ्त इलाज के लिए निकट के सरकारी अस्पताल में पहुंचे।
रुखसाना, आज भी तुम अपना फॉर्म भरने पोस्ट ऑफिस नहीं आई?
आप तो जानते हैं शीला जी, दानिश के अब्बू तो अब रहे नहीं, बाहर के हर काम के लिए दूसरों के भरोसे रहना पड़ता है।
तो अब निकलो। अल्पसंख्यक मंत्रालय की इस नई रोशनी योजना में तुम जैसी हजारों महिलाओं में नेतृत्व क्षमता को बढ़ाया जा रहा है।
आज की औरत अब घर से खुद बाहर आएगी और बनाएगी अपना जीवन बेहतर। अल्पसंख्यक मंत्रालय की नई रोशनी योजना आपके लिए, सीखें और सशक्त बने।
मदद हमारी, मंजिल आपकी।
Welcome back. In India First today, we're talking about an issue that is vital to India's strategic interest. It concerns water, electricity, and it's all about a meeting that's taking place over 2 days in Islamabad. We have G. Parthasarthy and Mr. Jha, formerly of the Central Water Commission, talking to us about it. And if I could come to you, Mr. Parthasarthy, again, this meeting that is now taking place, there was no fixed agenda for it. So how do things move
normally
forward?
The commissioners decide. Let me say one thing. The Indus water commissioners, in spite of all the problems we've had with Pakistan, that has been one regular continuing process. because it is
This is the
experts,
113th
it's experts'
meeting.
advice. What has happened recently, which is a matter of concern, is one or two Indus water commissioners from Pakistan
Okay.
who ruled rationally and agreed with the Indian viewpoint were literally hounded out. One was forced out of the country.
Okay.
So I think, you know, that's the extent
Who does this hounding?
the hounding was done by the generally by the media, by the politicians.
Okay.
Anybody to score a debating point.
Okay.
So I think that is the way the issue is looked at there. We have not a problem. You go by expert advice and we stay within the treaty. But there, because they've already misused resources, anything now is within the 3 provinces. And as I said, there is already 3 out of the 4 provinces have got their grievances the way this has been implemented.
That's a very well-established and entrenched backstory now. What's the way forward?
The way forward is stick by the treaty. They will have to agree, and we will agree, to a neutral expert. Certainly, we've had our problems with past resolutions of neutral experts. They've had their problems. But once you agree on a neutral expert...
But what sort of a neutral expert?
Generally, someone, I think you would be in a better position to...
Yeah, the experts of international repute, they
in the field of
water resources development and management. They are usually appointed by the government, both the governments.
Both the governments, and they can be from any part of the world.
Yes.
But
other than the countries.
But if you, obviously, but if you appoint somebody from, say, Europe or the Americas, either of the Americas, they wouldn't know the lay of the land. They wouldn't know what are the requirements. So won't that be like a very long, winding process? They'll assess everything. It'll take years and years.
No, they are technical experts, and then they are briefed. They are given all the relevant papers, materials, and they are fully briefed about.
So if a neutral expert is appointed, will that expert, whatever decision that expert has to give, has any sort of a time frame been defined in the treaty, or will it be defined for the expert mutually after mutual agreement?
Actually, that should be, once the decisions are there, then normally it should be agreed, because both have been duly appointed by the concerned governments. But some ifs and buts are there, the decisions are not being...
Because normally if you appoint an expert to decide on a matter, you specify that you will decide on this matter in this manner and in this much time. So is that...
No, I think the fact of the matter is that you can't put that sort of rigid thing, because they get the viewpoints of both.
Okay.
And then their World Bank is also there. So they generally they do it within a year or 2 years.
Okay. And in the interim, there's nothing that impedes us from doing what we want, as long as we are within the...
As long as we are within the provisions of the treaty, yes.
So, and what would Pakistan do then? Because that won't suit Pakistan the way that it's been...
That's why they're screaming for what they're screaming, but that is a violation of the treaty, to simultaneously have the neutral expert and an arbitration committee. It's ridiculous. Suppose they give differing verdicts.
And this neutral expert in no way will give any other third entity any sort of a say?
He will consult everybody. As he says, the chairman says, you have very eminent people who are specialized in this over a lifetime, and generally from a country which both sides will find mutually acceptable.
Is there any...
I would be surprised if he would agree to an expert from China on this.
Okay, we'll talk about that some other day. But just tell me, going by the past, if similar situations have arisen between different countries, and have they been amicably resolved?
Let me tell you one thing. Internationally, the Indus Water Treaty is regarded as a model of observance, which has been... Look, 1960, 57 years have gone by, and it's being observed broadly. But also, I must say, I mean, there is a view in India.
We're the ones who are observing.
There is a view that India, for example, was wrong in getting into this treaty. One view, for example, China refuses to sign any treaty with a lower riparian. The Americans, in their river water disputes, took 80 or 90% on the hapless Mexicans of the river waters. So I think we took into account the fact that, look, this was one country. There were Punjabis on both sides. The Rajasthanis and Sindhis have been. So I think we looked at it very broadly. It can be argued we were over generous, but that's hindsight.
True.
I'll take you to the background of this. When this was being negotiated initially, at that time, David...
This was in the late 50s?
Early or late 40s,
late
in
40s.
1948.
Okay.
Tennessee Valley Authority chairman, Mr. Lilienthal, David Lilienthal, he had come, he was duly received by both the countries, and on return he had written in his paper that progress, I'll quote, the progress in these areas would promote a sense of community between the two nations, which might be in time lead to Kashmir settlements.
Okay.
So, because he
that's quite an expectation.
I think Lilienthal's report came at a time when tensions were pretty
very
strong. I mean, that was his view. It's not ours. But nevertheless, he looked at it from those terms that you know, if you can settle waters.
Yes. It does give room for optimism. It does give room for optimism.
It is more valuable than real estate.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We're taking a short break at this point. We have further discussions on the Indus treaty. Just taking a short break right now. Stay with India First.
घर की सुरक्षा का तो पूरा ख्याल है आपको, पर आपकी दृष्टि की चोरी हो रही है, उसका क्या?
दृष्टि की चोरी मतलब? ग्लूकोमा यानी काला मोतिया से धीरे धीरे दृष्टि की चोरी होती रहती है। इसके मुख्य लक्षण है सर दर्द, आँख में दर्द, रोशनी के बल्ब की चारों ओर रंगीन गोले दिखना एवं चश्मे का नंबर जल्दी जल्दी बदल जाना।
यदि आपकी उम्र 40 से अधिक है तो अब काला मोतिया से सतर्क रहें। याद रखें, नियमित जांच और उपचार से ग्लूकोमा द्वारा होने वाली दृष्टिविहीनता को रोका जा सकता है।
लक्षण दिखने पर जांच जरूरी, तभी रुकेगी दृष्टि की चोरी।
पूरी जांच व मुफ्त इलाज के लिए निकट के सरकारी अस्पताल में पहुंचे।
भैया 2 कोल्ड ड्रिंक देना।
30 रुपए दे दो।
पर एमआरपी के हिसाब से तो सिर्फ 24 रुपए हुए।
एमआरपी को छोड़ो, ठंडा करने के लिए बर्फ भी तो लगता है।
पर आप एमआरपी से ज्यादा नहीं ले सकते, ये गलत है।
जी हाँ, एमआरपी जानना हर ग्राहक का हक है।
अगर कोई दुकानदार एमआरपी से अधिक डिमांड करे तो उसके खिलाफ अपने राज्य के विधिक माप विज्ञान विभाग में शिकायत करें। आप नेशनल कंज्यूमर हेल्पलाइन की भी मदद ले सकते हैं।
मैं ये नहीं पूछूंगा कि आप शौच के लिए कहाँ गए। मैं ये भी नहीं पूछूंगा कि अगर आप खुले में शौच के लिए गए तो क्या आपने अपने बच्चे की जान को खतरे में डाला? क्या आपके गांव की बच्चियों को खुले में शौच करते हुए किसी ने बुरी नजर से देखा? आप खुद समझदार हैं, सक्षम हैं। आप ये तो जानते ही होंगे कि हमारे देश में 70,000 से ज्यादा गांवों के लोगों ने खुले में शौच की प्रथा को खत्म कर दिया है। गांव के बच्चे, महिला, पुरुष सब इस लक्ष्य में जुटे। निगरानी समितियां बनी जिन्होंने खुले में शौच कर रहे लोगों को समझाया, शौचालय बनाया, उनका इस्तेमाल करना सिखाया। क्या आपका गांव भी बनेगा खुले में शौच से मुक्त? आइए स्वच्छ भारत अभियान से जुड़िए। अब नहीं तो कब?
घर की सुरक्षा का तो पूरा ख्याल है आपको, पर आपकी दृष्टि की चोरी हो रही है, उसका क्या?
दृष्टि की चोरी मतलब?
ग्लूकोमा यानी काला मोतिया से धीरे धीरे दृष्टि की चोरी होती रहती है। इसके मुख्य लक्षण है सर दर्द, आँख में दर्द, रोशनी के बल्ब की चारों ओर रंगीन गोले दिखना एवं चश्मे का नंबर जल्दी जल्दी बदल जाना।
यदि आपकी उम्र 40 से अधिक है तो अब काला मोतिया से सतर्क रहें। याद रखें, नियमित जांच और उपचार से ग्लूकोमा द्वारा होने वाली दृष्टिविहीनता को रोका जा सकता है।
लक्षण दिखने पर जांच जरूरी, तभी रुकेगी दृष्टि की चोरी।
पूरी जांच व मुफ्त इलाज के लिए निकट के सरकारी अस्पताल में पहुंचे।
अब मैं अपने लाइफ की सबसे बड़ी मूवमेंट लीड करने जा रहा हूं, जो इंडिया के लिए बहुत जरूरी है। आपको खड़ा होना पड़ेगा मेरे साथ। टीम स्वच्छ भारत मिशन का हिस्सा बनकर और हम सब मिलकर एक ऐसा इंडिया बनाएंगे जहाँ हर कोई टॉयलेट यूज करता हो, क्योंकि जब सब टॉयलेट यूज करेंगे तो सब प्रोग्रेस करेंगे।
Welcome back. Tonight in India First, we're talking about the Indus Water Treaty talks that are taking place between India and Pakistan in Islamabad. Today is day one, tomorrow is another day. And what we've spoken about so far is that both our experts, G. Parthasarthy, former Indian High Commissioner to Pakistan, and former Chairman Central Water Commission, Ghanshyam, have said that India can do with the water that it's entitled to use whatever that it can. Pakistan cannot impede that process. And as far as this entire World Bank role is concerned, now that World Bank has put the process on hold, can Pakistan go anywhere else, knock on some other door?
No, it is an internationally negotiated treaty whose provisions are binding under an international law on both countries. They'll have to abide by this process.
So basically,
process and procedure. Question the procedure, which I think the World Bank was wrong on combining the two. But as long as the procedures enshrined in the treaty are observed, yeah, I think there are certain cases where we have been unhappy with the verdict. But we have not come in the way, as Mr. Jha says. There's still a lot we can utilize, and I think we should go as fast forward. But problem with Pakistan is it tries to delay.
We just have 1 minute left. I want to come to you, Mr. Jha. Last of all, as an expert in the field of water, do you think it will be in Pakistan's own interest to let India use the water that it's entitled to and not create these impediments, not go rushing to the World Bank, and then go into these long-winding talks and negotiations and experts, neutral experts?
Yes, exactly. That was the reason that this treaty, along with these provisions, were made in the interests of both the countries. Now, technical experts of both the countries sat together and they decided like this, in the interests of both the countries. So it is in the interest of Pakistan also that they remain within the provision of the treaty.
Why? How?
Because the parameters which have been indicated, that is the optimum things which can be developed.
The other thing is we are sitting on the waters. If they choose to violate, that's their problem. But they will lose any international support or understanding. And we will be morally within our rights to do what we are doing within the treaty. So even if they don't like it, they would have to swallow it.
Okay. Well, let's hope that Pakistan does realize the folly of its ways and come to some sort of an agreement on how to proceed, at least in Islamabad. We have another day of the talks to go. Thanks a lot for joining us for the time being and coming to our studio. And thanks for watching India First. Stay tuned to DD News for all the latest.